What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Gridiron across the US. Today is our second ever episode, and today we're going to be covering all things leading up to week 14, such as key injuries, our Thursday night outlook, and some of our locks and upsets of the week. We'll get it started with some of our key injuries. Our first one is going to be Taysom Hill of the Saints. Taysom Hill, as many of you know, was coming off a monster game in week 12 against the Cleveland Browns. He went insane. He had three touchdowns, like almost near 200 yards and had like 47 fantasy points. Everybody picked him up in fantasy the next week. And then this week, unfortunately, against the Rams, he did suffer a torn ACL and other damage to his knee. But the Saints are currently 4-8, so it's not going to make too much of a difference on them. Saints are 4-4 with Hill in the lineup, so all four of their wins this season come with him in the lineup. So he's a big factor to their offense, and the offense is going to look a lot different. But will it really matter, Kevin? What do you think?
Yeah, based on that last point, what I was thinking when I saw this is like the Saints offense is so unique with how they use a guy like Taysom Hill because he's basically their Swiss Army knife. They line him up at QB, they line him up at running back, and they line him up at tight end. So now you're essentially missing three positions at that point. So I wonder how this looks for maybe an increased role to Kamara, as we already know about the Saints' underlying receiver injuries, as Olave's out and a few other guys are out. I don't really follow the Saints too much, but as an Alvin Kamara fantasy owner, I can't say I was too disappointed in
Oh,
the noise in the news. I think Kamara will see an increased volume, especially on the goal line and in the red zone. But it does sting to see a guy end his season and wishing the best for Taysom Hill.
just also such a likable guy. I've met him in person before. Just it couldn't happen to a worse guy, but in the case of Deshaun Watson's injury, it couldn't have happened to a better guy. All right. And our next two injuries, it's the 49ers backfields. Against Buffalo in their collapse on Sunday night, they lost both Christian McCaffrey and Jordan Mason to different injuries. Mason suffered what appears to be a high ankle sprain. He'll be out for 4 weeks. And McCaffrey has a PCL sprain. So he's most likely out for the season because I don't think the 49ers are making the playoffs this year. But CMC coming off of his Achilles issues, they ran him to the ground basically, as we discussed last episode. But the 49ers offense, it's not going to be looking too good. Brock Purdy's been dealing with injuries. Debo Samuel is going to be off the team next season. And now you lose both your starting running backs. Isaac Guerrero, he's going to take over lead backfield, but how much can he do is the question. 49ers sitting at 5-7. I think it's looking pretty bleak for their future of this season. But hopefully next season, McCaffrey returns to full health and they can maybe use him and Mason as a 1-2 punch instead of giving McCaffrey so many carries that it leads to more injuries.
Yeah, and I think this might be the nail in the coffin in what has been just no other way to describe it, but a nightmare of a season for the 49ers. You come into the year with Super Bowl aspirations, you're in your Super Bowl window, Brock Purdy's on his rookie contract, and it starts with the Brandon Ayuk shenanigans. Um, and it's just spiraled down from there ever since with all the injuries and not the results you wanted. So I don't see the 49ers making a late season push. I could have seen it happening before this because their division's so weak, but McCaffrey and Mason both being on the IL. We'll see how Garendo steps up, but I just don't see them being too competitive. Um, and like throwing back to that Sunday night game, we saw where McCaffrey got injured, that non-contact injury, but I didn't really see where Mason got injured, and so the
No,
news that he was placed on the IR was pretty shocking. No, wouldn't you say?
yeah, I agree. I didn't see the play he got injured also, but I wasn't expecting it. And then I just see the next day, both of them are placed on IR. High ankle sprains usually don't take 4 weeks to go through. I mean, maybe like 2 to 3, but 4 weeks and potentially the season, it just seems a little off to me.
Yeah, 100%. Um, so yeah, not looking great for the 49ers. Our next guy we're going to talk about is Chargers running back J.K. Dobbins. Now, here's a guy who struggled with injuries his whole career in Baltimore. He never really had the opportunity to be healthy. He comes over to LA with Harbaugh's brother, Jim Harbaugh, and he's just having a career year. And
Mhm.
as we see, he goes out in the Monday night game against the Bengals, I think it was. I think it was 2 weeks ago.
Mhm.
And he was out this week. And then we see that they placed him on IR, which is, it's just awful for a guy who's having a career year when his whole career has been defined by these injuries. And as a team, the Chargers are what, 8-5? They're competing with these top tier teams like the Ravens, the Broncos for playoff seeding. I don't think they're going to compete for their division with the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are going to clinch that in the next week or two. Um, but it gives an opportunity to a guy like Gus Edwards, Kamani Vidal, to see how they step up in wake of the J.K. Dobbins absence. But when you watch the Chargers, J.K. Dobbins is such an efficient runner, and then when Gus Edwards comes in, it's pretty rough. So I do think this hurts the Chargers long term. And it's ultimately gonna, we're gonna see how they do in the next couple weeks without him.
I think it could open up their passing game a little more opportunities. They got Lad McConkey. I know he's questionable this week. Then you got guys Josh Palmer, maybe Quentin Johnson if he remembers how to catch. Then you got Will Disley. There's weapons all around, and with Justin Herbert, you can still get an offense together. But I do think this effect is gonna hit them pretty hard. I feel.
Yeah. And lastly, but certainly not least, this isn't exactly an injury, but as of recording on Wednesday, December 4th, we were informed today that Deontay Johnson has been suspended by the Ravens for one game for what I'm hearing as like misconduct to the team,
Mhm.
which means he didn't want to go into the game on Sunday, which this is hilarious
Put
because
me in, coach.
um, dating back to the offseason, the Steelers traded Deontay to the Panthers for Dante Jackson. And it was an interesting trade. We still have seen the Steelers not able to fill that hole at receiver left by trading Deontay. But Dante Jackson has been great for the Steelers. He's got 5 interceptions. Really the forms the best corner duo with Joey Porter Jr. than we've seen maybe since like the 2010, 2008 teams. Because just going back in the recent years to like 2017 with like Corey Sensabaugh, oh, the Legion of Boom. Um, but I think this is hilarious because no one understood how much of a head case Deontay Johnson was. They were just playing it off as, oh, casual Steelers receiver. And it's starting to come out, He had it. I would say his tenure in Carolina went a lot better than I expected it to.
For
And then he
sure.
gets traded to the Ravens at the deadline for a fifth round pick, which everyone thought, oh, the Ravens fleeced them, another weapon for Lamar. And this has been a generational fall off with
I know.
he's just been terrible. So
Yeah,
I,
he's
I
only
think
had
it's
one
great
catch all
'cause,
season for the
yeah,
Ravens.
I always hated him. So
Yeah, that's fair. It's a weird situation. Like you said, you gave up a fifth round pick for him. Everyone was saying Ravens fleece, but in reality, it's a Panthers fleece because you get an attitude issued receiver to a run first offense that he used to play against a ton in Pittsburgh. And maybe Pittsburgh
mhm.
made him crazy as it does most wide receivers, but it's just a weird situation because why would he hold himself out of the game? There's definitely something going on behind the scenes in Baltimore.
Yeah, I can't tell you what it is, but definitely an interesting scenario. All right. On to the Thursday night preview. We have the Green Bay Packers traveling to Ford Field to take on the Detroit Lions. What do you think about this one?
I think it's a divisional game, so it's going to be high scoring, very physical. But I feel like the Lions are going to pull it out as they do. They're on a 10-game win streak right now. Only loss was, I believe, week 2 to Tampa. Ever since then, they've just been a powerhouse. And Green Bay's a good team as well. They sit at pretty sure they're 9-3 or 8-3 right now. But
Yeah, 9-3.
But they have a really good offense, really good defense. You got Xavier McKinney and Kirby Joseph, two of the best safeties in the league. But Jordan Love has just thrown too many picks this season for me to believe that the Packers will win this game.
Yeah, I think it will definitely come down to which team turns the ball over less, and that favors the Lions significantly as Jared Goff, very efficient guy. Other than that one game against the Texans where he threw like
At
five
least they still
interceptions.
won.
Yeah. And I mean, the Lions did fumble the ball last week for the first time since last Thanksgiving, but I'm not worried about that. I think
Oh,
ball security favors the Lions, and I think that's what it'll ultimately come down to. So I do have the Lions winning this game, but I think it'll be a good one. It'll be a good
Mhm.
Thursday night game.
Yeah, hopefully one of the better Thursday nights all season because we haven't really been blessed with too many,
Except the snow globe game.
except the snow
The
globe game.
the
Jameis
Jameis
Winston.
Winston Thursday night wasn't even mad we lost that one.
Yeah, that was just an
Um
entertaining game all around.
so yeah. You want to go into the upsets and underdogs or underdog and
Mhm.
locks of the week?
Yeah, we'll start it off with both of our upsets of the week. They both differ. My upset of the week is actually the Chargers going into Kansas City and winning. As I expect, it's going to be a hopefully a close game, also another divisional game. But the Chargers have not had many turnover worthy plays this season. I know they lost J.K. Dobbins, but Justin Herbert has only thrown one interception this entire season, as Mahomes has thrown 11. So I think the key to the game for the Chargers here is just force a turnover, keep it close, force a turnover, and then create points off turnovers. If they can't make points off turnovers, it's going to be another Kansas City win, no doubt. But if they can, then I could see the Chargers pulling it out by like three or a touchdown or a one score game.
Yeah, and I can also see the Chargers winning this one. Because like we talked about in episode one, if you haven't already watched, go watch that or listen to that, I should say. The Chiefs aren't themselves this year. They're finding ways to win, but I could definitely see the Chargers stealing this one on prime time. My underdog of the week is another LA team defeating another AFC powerhouse. I have the Rams upsetting the Bills. Now, I do think the Bills are like a top 3, 4 team in the league. They're up there with the Chiefs, Lions, Eagles. But I think the vibes are going to be a little too high coming off that blowout in the snow against San Francisco. I can see the Bills winning this game, but I do like the Rams as an upset because the Bills are coming to the West Coast. And I don't know. I think the Rams are better than their record entails. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Cup and Puka were out, until about week 8, week 7, and they've been better since then, and it shows. And the Bills, I think, have they already clinched their division, or they're close because it's
I think they
terrible the
already
rest of it.
have because that division
Yeah.
not very strong outside them.
So even if they haven't already, they will. And so now they're playing for seeding, but you have a team like the Rams who are in the race for the 1 seed in the NFC West against the 7-5 Seahawks, 6-6 Cardinals, 5-7 49ers. You're going to see a desperate team. And when a team, I wouldn't say they necessarily have their back against the wall, but it means more to them. I do like their odds against the Bills this week.
For sure. And for our locks of the week, I got mine being the Vikings beating the Falcons. Maybe because I'm a Saints fan and hate the Falcons, but the Falcons, they're on a 3 game skid. Kirk Cousins has thrown 6 interceptions to 0 touchdowns in there. And you're going, I believe, into Minnesota
Yeah.
and going to play against one of the better defenses in the league, led by Brian Flores. They got playmakers everywhere. And against the Falcons offense that has not been as advertised, I feel like that defense is going to get home. And in Kirk's return to Minnesota, I mean, the fans are going to be cheering for him, but it's Kirk in a big moment. What's he going to do? He's going to throw a bunch of picks. Falcons are going to lose that game. That's definitely my lock of the week.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the Vikings will come away, going into one of the better atmospheres in the league, Kirk Cousins' homecoming game. Big storylines, but I do think the 10-2 Vikings will take it. My lock of the week is an interesting one. I'm taking the 4-8 Cincinnati Bengals on the road versus the 5-7 Dallas Cowboys. When you look at the Bengals' losses this year, they they've lost, I think, 5 games now is scoring 33 or more points. It's because their defense couldn't stop a middle school team. I mean, they made Russell Wilson look like 2018 Mahomes last week, but I'm not confident in Cooper Rush's ability to put up that
No,
kind of points. I think the Bengals defense will kind of bolster themselves. Once again, another team with their back against the wall. They're all but eliminated at this point, but I still think they're going to give it a fighting chance, especially on Hard Knocks. No, but I think Joe Burrow and they're just going to torch the Cowboys defense. So that's my lock of the week on Monday Night Football.
yeah, very weak defense over there in Dallas for sure. And Cincinnati's offense is just too explosive. And like you said, I don't think Cooper Rush can hang with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
And I think that's about all we got for you today. Do you have anything else?
No, that'll do it. So, what we're gonna do, just a brief outlook of the future episodes going forward. The Tuesday podcasts are gonna be a little bit longer. It's gonna be recapping the week, and then the Thursday episodes are more of a preview of what's ahead. So they're gonna be a little bit shorter, less storyline than the Tuesday ones, just so everyone who's watching is aware of that. But yeah, that's all I've got.
All right. We'll see you in the next episode.